YouTube can throttle us.
They can suppress us.
But they can't stop a text message.
They tried to silence him. They erased his name. But he rebuilt from nothing. He fought every algorithm. They tried again and failed. Now he's back, stronger. From blackout to spotlight, he's at the White House, at the top of his game. Franchi lives.
You are about to enter another dimension, the dimension of truth, unfiltered and uncensored. Welcome to the Raw Feed with Gary Franchi.
Welcome to the Raw Feed. I'm Gary Franchi, coming to you live from the heart of America. Unfiltered truth to millions on YouTube. Hit those donation links below. Every contribution powers our gear. Every contribution keeps the party going. Help me help you. Hit those donation links. YouTube channel memberships. Special acknowledgement in the fellowship. Your super chats keep me standing. Your Rumble rants fuel every round.
Say hello to super chats.
Spread the intel. Every repost extends our reach.
Super chats fuel this spectacle. Your Rumble rants give me strength.
24/7 members-only community, behind-the-scenes discussions.
Connect with fellow patriots.
My mama always said, life is like sharing the truth. Text this stream to your friends. What if I told you the app is real? Download the Next News Network app. Android users, take the Google Play path. iPhone users, App Store awaits.
All right, the swamp is panicking, and you can smell their desperation from here. I'm Gary Franchi. This is the Raw Feed, where we cut through the noise and deliver the truth the mainstream media will not touch. And speaking of touching, Brian, I needed to touch Discord real quick. Check your messages. Looks like we may have something going on. And it's February 26th. You know, it carries weight in American political history. On this day in 1935, Robert Watson Watt demonstrated the first practical radar system to the British Air Ministry, revolutionizing military defense forever. That breakthrough in detecting hidden threats feels particularly relevant today, as we're witnessing the Trump administration's own detection system exposing corruption that's been hiding in plain sight for years. The establishment's house of cards is collapsing faster than they can rebuild it. Every single day brings fresh evidence that President Trump's promise to drain the swamp wasn't just campaign rhetoric. It was a declaration of war against the deep state apparatus that's been poisoning our republic for decades. While the left screams about retribution and weaponization, they're projecting their own crimes onto the very administration that's finally holding them accountable. What we're seeing unfolding isn't persecution, it's prosecution. There's a fundamental difference between weaponizing government against political opponents, which Democrats perfected during the Obama and Biden years, and using legitimate legal process to investigate actual criminal behavior. The America First movement didn't create these scandals. We're simply refusing to cover up for them anymore. And the hypocrisy, of course, breathtaking as usual. These are the same people who spent 4 years calling Trump a Russian asset, who manufactured evidence, who lied to FISA courts, who turned our intelligence agencies into opposition research firms. And now they want to lecture us about the proper use of federal power. They want sympathy for facing consequences they deserve. The audacity is almost admirable if it weren't so pathetic. Tonight's show exposes just how deep this corruption runs and how far these criminals will go to protect their schemes. We're talking about networks of influence that span decades involving some of the most recognizable names in Democrat politics. No, these are not conspiracy theories. These are documented facts that the mainstream media has deliberately ignored because they threaten the narrative they spent years constructing. And the evidence, of course, it keeps mounting, and the excuses keep getting weaker. Every investigation reveals new layers of deception. Every document dump exposes fresh lies. Every testimony contradicts previous sworn statements. We're not just witnessing individual cases of misconduct, we're watching the systematic unraveling of an entire criminal enterprise that masqueraded as legitimate government. But here's what really matters. This is exactly what Americans voted for. They didn't just elect Trump to implement conservative policies. They elected him to clean house, to restore integrity, to make government accountable to the people again. Every firing, every investigation, every disclosure represents democracy working as it should, not the authoritarian overreach that Democrats claim that it is. The timing could not be more perfect as international challenges mount and domestic issues demand serious attention. We finally have leadership that will confront hard truths instead of managing convenient lies. This administration isn't afraid to upset comfortable arrangements or challenge powerful interests that have grown fat off taxpayer dollars and political protection. And tonight we're going to show you how a former Secretary of State is finally facing questions she's avoided for years, how FBI agents who thought they were untouchable are learning otherwise, how state officials who enabled massive fraud are discovering federal consequences, how foreign adversaries are dealing with American strength instead of weakness, and how long-hidden government secrets are seeing daylight for the very first time. This is accountability in action, justice delayed but not denied, and transparency that actually means something. You see, the deep state counted on Americans staying distracted, staying divided, staying ignorant about their schemes. Well, they miscalculated badly because we're paying attention, we're connecting the dots, and we are demanding answers. You see, the truth has a way of surfacing no matter how deep they try to bury it. And tonight, we're digging up the evidence that will shock you, infuriate you, and ultimately vindicate everything we've been telling you about the corruption that's been eating away at our institutions. So stay with us. You do not want to miss what comes next. Let's welcome you to the show. We got Karen Finley and Carl Raymond in the house. Larry is here. Who else? I. Davis, Don Cook, Jim Wissett. Jim Wissett is here. Going through the list, Tracy Hicks and Kryn Lynn, James Fay and Cindy. Who else is in the house? Going through this list, let's see. Patty Yearout is here. Good to see you, Patty. Scrolling through, Elias Lawn and Painting is here. Bill's Rules. Angela Roberts. Jeremy Olson. Sarah Bryan. Thomas Slack. War Priestess is here. Curio is back. Andrew Bosniak is here as well. Ron the Don. And the gang is all filing in. Great to see you guys tonight. We've got a lot of news to cover. As you know, Hillary Clinton is finally being deposed today. We're going to get into the latest developments on that with respect to the Jeffrey Epstein hearings. Truth or tricks? We're going to find out. What? I don't. Okay. Hillary Clinton just sat under oath and denied knowing Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, but wait, there's more. The same woman who orchestrated the Russia hoax, who called on foreign governments to censor Americans, now claims total innocence about the world's most connected predator. Her deposition was even halted after unauthorized photos leaked. So what is she trying to hide? You see, this isn't just about Hillary's past, it's about accountability for America's elite. If Clinton can orchestrate a years-long hoax to overthrow a sitting president and walk free, what else can she get away with? You see, we're watching the two-tiered justice system in real time. You see, while ordinary Americans face consequences for the actions, the political establishment protects its own. Harvard's Larry Summers just resigned over his Epstein ties, but Clinton's, they get a pass? This deposition could expose the web of corruption that's been strangling our republic. And the stakes could not be higher. Either we have equal justice under the law, or we have none at all. Speaking of things that the establishment does not want you to see coming, yeah, something is brewing in America. Of course, you can feel it in the air. The tension, the uncertainty, elite figures like Hillary Clinton sitting under oath while Harvard officials resign in shame. The problem? You never know the full story until after the fact, after the crash, after the collapse, after your savings disappear, after it's too late to protect what you have worked for. And here's the brutal truth. You can't safeguard your wealth after disaster strikes. You have to be ready now. All this chaos, the warning signs, the corruption at the highest levels, it may be signaling something much bigger coming for our economy and our currency. That's why smart Americans are turning to noble gold investments to protect their wealth with precious metals. Give them a call or visit the link in the description, nextnewsgold.com. But here's what's really explosive. Clinton demanded this deposition be televised live. Why? Because she thought she could control the narrative, like she did with Russiagate. Then Benny Johnson drops an unauthorized photo from Lauren Boebert, and suddenly the whole thing gets shut down. What was in that photo that spooked him so bad, and why is Clinton calling on foreign governments to censor Americans while claiming she's innocent of everything else? Here's that moment. They had cameras staged outside of the location where the hearing was taking place, the deposition was taking place. Wall Street apes. Hillary Clinton says she never met Jeffrey Epstein under oath, and she storms out because a photo of her was taken and posted on social media. Here's what happened. Nobody cares if a photo was taken. She got caught lying and needed literally any excuse to run out. Listen carefully here to what's going on when the photo was leaked. Did we lose the connection? Oh, okay, 1 second. Let me see if I can get that reconnected real quick. It was connected. I will just reconnect it now. And then you'll be able to hear exactly what was going on. Okay, it should be working now. Let's see here. There we go.
Can you explain what the picture is?
If you look on your Twitter feed, you know who it came from?
I'm actually see that. Can you explain what the picture is?
If you look on your Twitter feed, you know who it came from?
It came from Benny Johnson. He said Lauren Boebert gave it.
Yeah, look at Benny Johnson's feed. Good. We'll be back. Thanks.
So that was no doubt the moment that they said, okay, we've got an excuse, we've got an escape plan, we can find a way out of having to be deposed. Now, the news as it came in, Hillary Clinton testifying under oath that she has no information on Epstein's child trafficking network and does not recall ever meeting him. Clinton claims she's innocent of trafficking and torturing children. Does anyone believe this?
Associated Press is reporting Hillary Clinton in testimony says, and she's under oath, she has no information on Epstein's criminal activities and never recalls meeting him. Jason.
That may be true, but I think the question is, what about the money? I think what you're going to see from this, again, no allegation of necessarily breaking the law, but what about the money? I think the money trail is the primary question, or one of the questions that the Clintons are going to ask. Hillary Clinton's going to be asked. Donations that went into the Clinton initiative. What about the Global Foundation? And what were the introductions? Because the soft power of having a former Secretary of State or having a First Lady making introductions, opening doors, there are going to be a lot of questions about that.
A lot of questions still need to be answered, but of course she runs out. The bombshell testimony sparking fierce political reactions, with Trump supporters immediately calling for accountability. Eric Spracklin posting this: Hillary Clinton should have been put in prison during Trump's first term. I can't be the only person who remembers chanting "lock her up" at every single rally, and Trump literally saying she'd be in jail if he were president during the debates. Just this moment, of course, was probably one of the most historic moments in debate history.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
We want to remind...
Oh, one of my favorite moments in Donald Trump history. Well, critics demand justice for getting our first visual confirmation of the historic testimony actually happening. This is the image in question that was sent by Lauren Boebert to Benny Johnson. The first image of Hillary Clinton testifying under oath about Jeffrey Epstein to the Republican Oversight Committee. The first time Hillary has had to answer real questions about Epstein. Clinton does not look happy. So here's the picture. And apparently the reason that she used this as an excuse to run out of the deposition was because it was just unflattering. Unflattering. Yeah, she needed a reason to escape, and that is the escape hatch that she chose. So the photo evidence confirms what many have suspected. Clinton's testimony is real, but her claims of ignorance are facing immediate skepticism. Hillary Clinton testifying under oath before the House Oversight Committee. She has no information, apparently, on Epstein's criminal activities and never recalls meeting him. Do you believe that? And Democrats aren't staying silent on this. They're firing back with their own demands for Trump to face similar scrutiny. Robert Garcia, before the Hillary Clinton deposition: let's get President Trump in front of our committee.
I'll answer that question. So let me go ahead and we're going to answer one or two questions. Let me just also say, I think today also sets a precedent. So I want to be very clear that we have said from day one that we want to talk to former President Bill Clinton. And the other person we want to talk to is current President Donald Trump. So we should be very clear that now that we're going to hear from former President Clinton, I hope that Chairman Comer and the Republicans will join us in demanding that the person who actually appears more times in the files than the former president, who we want to speak with, is President Donald Trump. And so let's get President Trump in front of our committee to answer the questions that are being asked across this country from survivors and from those who have been brutally attacked and raped, sometimes as children. Let's release the files and answer one or two questions. Thank you.
So should the Clintons have come forward sooner?
Yeah. Good luck pulling the President of the United States in front of that witch hunt. The partisan divide reveals something shocking. Even Democrats may be turning against the Clintons when it comes to Epstein. Here's James Comer.
Certain documents. Then the motion was amended by Scott Perry to include subpoenas for various names. I think there were 8 names originally, including Bill and Hillary Clinton. Everyone that was included in that subpoena has already either been interviewed by the Oversight Committee or sent in a statement that they had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of the investigation, except the Clintons. We worked for 6 months to get the Clintons to come in, and then they acted like they were going to come in, and then they didn't show up. And obviously we moved to hold the Clintons in contempt. And I think one thing that surprised the Clintons, they assumed the Democrats on the committee would vote in a partisan manner and not vote to hold the Clintons in contempt. And what they learned was a majority of the Democrats on the committee either voted to hold the Clintons in contempt or voted present. And I think that's a statement that this investigation is serious. It is a bipartisan investigation. The American people have a lot of questions. To my knowledge, the Clintons haven't answered very many, if any, questions about their knowledge or involvement with Epstein and Maxwell. Again, no one's accusing at this moment the Clintons of any wrongdoing. They're going to have due process, but we have a lot of questions.
Oh, yes, many questions. Clinton's team tried to control the narrative by releasing her statement at a venue that sounds more like theater than a courthouse. Hillary Clinton releasing her opening statement ahead of her closed-door House testimony at the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center regarding her connections to Epstein. She posted it to X. This is her opening statement. Oh boy, what does she say? Mr. Chairman, ranking member of the committee, as a former senator, I have respect for legislative oversight and respect its exercise, as do the American people, to be principled and fearless in pursuit of truth and accountability. As we all know, however, too often congressional investigations are partisan political theater, which is an abdication of duty and an insult to the American people. The committee justified its subpoena to me based on its assumption that I have information regarding the investigation into the criminal activities of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Let me be clear, as I do not. As I stated in my sworn declaration on January 13th, I had no idea about their criminal activities. I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein. I never flew on his plane or visited his island homes or offices. I have nothing to add to that. Like every decent person, I've been horrified at what we have learned about their crimes. It's unfathomable that Mr. Epstein initially got a slap on the wrist in 2008, which allowed him to continue his predatory practices for another decade. So that's just a snapshot. It's like a 4-page opening statement. But the investigation is expanding beyond Clinton. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick could be next in the hot seat. House Oversight Chair James Comer says he might bring in Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick to be deposed in the congressional probe into Epstein, saying it's very possible.
We'll do one more question. Go ahead.
In the spirit of bipartisanship, would you then ask the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to come testify? It seems like he has some information.
That's very possible, and I think I think it's a good possibility that his name will arise in some questioning today.
It'll be on my list, and I have an email I printed off for Hillary to ask about Howard Lutnick today.
Okay.
So
we're asking again, and I want to remind everyone, we've already brought in Alex Acosta and Bill Barr for depositions. That's 2 Republicans in the Trump administration. So this isn't just about Democrats. This is about anyone that has any knowledge of Epstein, the investigation. I think we all agree the government failed. The government failed the victims. And what our role is, we can't prosecute anyone. But what we have been doing is getting transparency to the American people. We subpoena.
So we'll see if Howard Lutnick gets pulled in front of the committee, but his comments, Comer's comments, reveal this is only the beginning. The Clintons have been dodging Epstein questions for years until now. And here is more from Comer before the deposition.
The American people have a lot of questions. To my knowledge, the Clintons haven't answered very many, if any, questions about their knowledge or involvement with Epstein and Maxwell. Again, no one's accusing at this moment the Clintons of any wrongdoing. They're going to have due process. But we have a lot of questions. And the purpose of the whole investigation is to try to understand many things about Epstein. How did he accumulate so much wealth? How was he able to surround himself with some of the most powerful men in the world? Was he an asset for our government or any other government? These are the questions that we're going to ask over the next 2 days, and hopefully we'll be able to get some answers. And as always, we're going to release the transcripts. We're going to release the video as soon as everyone has approved it.
It will be interesting to see how that video is presented, especially because Hillary Clinton walked out. The Epstein fallout is spreading globally, with major resignations starting to cascade from the scandal. Breaking news, the president and CEO of the World Economic Forum, Borge Brende, resigns over the Epstein files. Another one bites the dust. And new documents are emerging that completely contradict the official Epstein didn't do something to himself narrative, adding fuel. Jesse Waters goes over documents showing major Epstein discrepancies. DOJ documents call his death a murder. Document shows his death was documented the day before, and the device that was DNA tested likely was the wrong one. And of course, Bill Gates admitting to affairs with Russian women. That's also a headline. Did you hear about that? Now, I'll play some of this here. There might be something too spicy for YouTube. We might have to cut out of it, but we'll see.
Possible espionage and a blackmail situation. Why is the prosecutor saying that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered?
Well, this is...
Why are they calling that a murder?
Yeah, this is something that's brand new. We just saw this document in the files from an assistant U.S. attorney. It raises all kinds of new questions related to this on top of crazy things we know about Jeffrey Epstein's death. And this follows a document that apparently was put together announcing his death that was dated actually the day before, which raised some eyebrows. We've seen video of a mysterious individual in orange making his way up the shoe stairwell at 10:30 the night of Jeffrey Epstein's death. I learned from the documents that the official inmate count that night dropped from 73 inmates to 72. The guard who dealt with that says now that they have no memory of why that inmate count changed. So there's a lot of suspicious things going on in addition to what we know about the medical examiner's office.
Yeah, we might show you.
So the FBI evidence obstruction claims are exploding just as Clinton faces her deposition, and the timing could not be more damaging. Representative Luna drops a bomb on the Epstein investigation. We had someone come forward and say there was destruction of evidence under the former deputy director of the FBI. The Clintons under deposition today. The week isn't over yet.
Who do not have access to the files, how can they be confident that the Attorney General, Bondi, leading this charge, or others who are in charge of providing documents, that they really will do so in the interest of justice?
Well, I think that, for starters, you have a bipartisan oversight committee actually working to not cover up, but actually go into all of this, right? We're interviewing the Clintons tomorrow. But to be clear, I mean, the destruction of evidence occurred under previous administrations. And that in itself, if you look at the network that was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, to think that there aren't shady things happening in your government, I think would just be a lie to the American people. The fact is that we did have someone come forward. They did say that there was destruction of evidence under the former deputy director of the FBI. And even if you're looking at the original plea deals that Jeffrey Epstein was given, you know, when he was first charged and then also more recently when he then committed suicide in New York, I mean, he should have never gotten off. He should have never had his sentences dropped down to the way that he did. And there are marks of intelligence surrounding this as well, whether it was foreign or, you know, our own. But I don't think that we're ever going to get the full picture. And
will we ever get the full picture? That remains to be seen. Someone identified as C emails Epstein. I give you permission to do something to him. He lied apparently to you and lied to me. Epstein forwards the message with one word, whoops. The reply, no one will lie to you and get away with it from me. No one, and whoops is correct. This is from the Epstein emails. I give you permission. I give you permission. Clinton's not going down without a fight. She's now directly attacking Trump's administration and Pam Bondi. She claims President Trump's administration is pulling her into the Epstein situation as a shiny object to divert attention from him. Clinton says Pam Bondi has broken the law by hiding information that should be made public.
We offered that. They want to pull us. Why do they want to pull us into this? To divert attention from President Trump. This is not complicated. This is so obvious, and they keep trying to divert. Look at this shiny object. We're going to have the Clintons, even Hillary Clinton, who never met the guy. We're going to have her there. Let's focus on what's really happening here. You have an attorney general and a Justice Department attempting to hide information that should be made public.
And of course, Hillary Clinton raising the stakes because she's now facing the direct questions about the Epstein ties to her foundation. She'll be grilled under oath.
Obviously, most attention is with Bill Clinton. Most attention is with Bill Clinton, who was on this plane of Epstein at least 16 times. There's some very embarrassing photos that have come out in these files. But today, Hillary Clinton will face some equally difficult questions when it comes to their global initiative and foundation. Epstein seems to have played a role in helping the Clintons in that area. And also, Hillary Clinton had a relationship with Maxwell. And while both of them have tried to distance themselves as all of these files came out, Maxwell was invited to her daughter's wedding. So this was not a arm's length relationship.
Yeah, who can ever forget that picture of Ghislaine Maxwell sitting in the aisle as Chelsea Clinton is being walked down the aisle by her father, Bill, her supposed father. But regardless, we do know that tomorrow Bill Clinton is set to be deposed. So expect more fireworks. The Epstein connections are causing a domino effect of resignations across elite institutions. Obama and Clinton operative Larry Summers has resigned from Harvard amid his ties to Epstein. Bill Gates just confessed to flying on Epstein's plane, having 2 affairs with Russian women. Even an ex-Norwegian prime minister who handed Obama his Nobel Peace Prize.
Fox News alert, the Epstein blast radius is expanding, and more names added to the list. Larry Summers, a top operative for Clinton and Obama, today announced he's resigning from Harvard at the end of the year after getting exposed in the files. And Bill Gates is saying sorry. In a town hall at his foundation yesterday, he confessed to having 2 affairs with Russian women while married to his now very wealthy ex-wife, and admitted to flying on Epstein's plane and spending time with him in the U.S. and abroad. But he maintains he did nothing illicit. The billionaire said he met with Epstein starting in 2011, years after Epstein had pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting a minor for prostitution. Gates said he was aware of some 18-month thing that had limited Epstein's travel, but said he didn't properly check his background. And we're finding out U.S. Virgin Islands Democrat Governor Albert Bryan Jr. apparently gave Epstein special treatment just before his arrest, helping Epstein with a construction problem he had on Pedophile Island. The global fallout continues. Prince Andrew was first. Now his ex-wife is keeping a low profile, bouncing between properties, even checking into one of the world's most expensive wellness clinics. Reports say she maintained contact with Epstein after his release from prison and even introduced him to her goddaughter. The pressure on Andrew isn't going away. Whistleblowers now alleging he spent taxpayer money on massages. Earlier this month, Prince Andrew was kicked out of his home, the Royal Lodge, and he didn't take it too well. According to the Daily Mail, he shouted, "You can't do this to me. I'm the Queen's son." Remember, Andrew stepped back from royal duties in 2019. Why is he still living on royal property? The Times of London obtained a copy of his lease. Apparently, he hasn't paid rent in 2 decades. He's an international embarrassment. Pranksters hung the prince's arrest photo inside the Louvre in Paris. The Epstein bomb is hitting every corner of the earth. Norway's former prime minister, you know, the one who awarded Obama the Nobel Peace Prize, also known as, quote, Mr. Human Rights, was just charged with gross corruption. They're investigating if he accepted gifts, travel, and loans from Epstein. He says he's innocent, but he's in the files, telling Epstein this: if Trump wins, I'll settle on your island. And he just checked himself into a hospital due to the strain arising in the wake of this case. Maybe he could visit Fergie at that wellness hospital. Now the British government is about to unseal more documents tied to the former ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, who was arrested in the Epstein investigation. New emails appear to show Mandelson leaking sensitive information to Epstein. He also says he's innocent, but here he is in the files in his underwear. Why do we know so little? Well, documents show that in July 2019, days after Epstein was arrested, the FBI told the NYPD's sex crimes unit to, quote, stand down. Quote, FBI reached out to NYPD leadership already, and they were told that SUV has been directed to stand down and that all Epstein stuff needs to go to and through us. This was right after Epstein was arrested, as New York prosecutors were actively trying to interview victims, build cases, look at co-conspirators. Why cut them out right then? Was that standard procedure or something else?
Clearly, a cover-up in action. Harvard is cleaning house as the Epstein files expose deep ties between academia and the disgraced founder. World Economic Forum president and CEO Borge Brand resigns after the forum opens investigation into his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. New York Times confirmation gives mainstream credibility to what started as social media rumors about elite resignations. And of course, the former Harvard president and Democrat Larry Summers resigning. Another one bites the dust. After months of legal battles, the Clintons can no longer avoid facing direct questions about their Epstein connections. New York Times, of course, confirming Larry Summers' resignations. And the Clintons are finally sitting down for their Epstein depositions after spending months fighting tooth and nail to avoid it. Bill and Hillary have been huddling with lawyers to prep, refreshing their memories on Epstein's years, and planning how to handle what could blow the whole thing wide open. Epstein blamed Charles on the exact day Prince Andrew stepped down as the UK trade envoy in July of 2011. I assume he knows that this is Charles' doing. Andrew served as the role from 2001 to 2011 before mounting pressure over his ties to Epstein. Harvard's Larry Summers resigning. That's huge, huge news today. AI analysis breaks down Clinton's defensive strategy, revealing her key talking points. Benny Johnson writes, it was authorized. It's hilarious. They're trying to use this to weasel out of answering questions. It was Hillary who demanded this deposition to be live for all to see. Just in, Hillary Clinton's deposition has been paused, reportedly halted after conservative influencer Benny Johnson posted this unauthorized photo sent to him by Lauren Boebert. The Heritage Foundation is connecting Clinton's testimony to broader allegations about her role in political disinformation campaigns. Here are some bullet points on her opening statement: denying any knowledge of crimes, never met him, called the hearing partisan theater, a Republican cover-up to protect Trump. Heritage Foundation confirms that Hillary Clinton, who orchestrated the single greatest misinformation and disinformation campaign in the United States history, the Russian collusion hoax, as a means to overthrow the U.S. government, was directly involved in urging censorship of Americans overseas.
In a free fall in Europe. There are two anti-free speech movements that have coalesced. One is in Europe, where it has laid waste to free speech. Germany, France, England. Free speech has been eviscerated. And also places like Canada. The U.S. anti-free speech movement began in higher education, then metastasized throughout the government. But this has all reached our shores now. The Berlin World Forum followed the remarks of Vice President Vance on free speech, and the EU was red hot. They gathered in Berlin, and it was the most anti-free speech gathering I've ever been part of. There's only two of us from the free speech community. And they are committed. And, you know, Hillary Clinton was there, and she really fueled the anger. I mean, she, when Twitter was purchased by Elon Musk, she called on the EU to use the infamous Digital Services Act, which is one of the most anti-free speech pieces of legislation in decades. And she called upon the EU to use the DSA to force the censorship of American citizens, force people like Musk to censor. It's an extraordinary act by someone who was once a presidential candidate in the United States. But they are committed to it. And after the World Forum, they further globalized this effort, and they are threatening companies like X with ruinous fines unless they resume censoring American citizens.
So who's at the forefront of trying to squelch your voice? None other than the woman who refuses to reveal hers, finding any excuse to squirm out of a deposition. And the woman who spent 4 years trying to destroy Trump with fabricating evidence now sits under oath, claiming she knows nothing about the most connected criminal in modern history. It's, of course, the same playbook: deny everything, attack the process, blame Republicans, but this time there are receipts. The establishment is scrambling to contain the damage before it spreads. Now, this is bigger than just Hillary Clinton. It's about whether America still believes in equal justice, or if we're an official banana republic where the connected elite play by different rules. Clinton orchestrated the greatest political hoax in our history and walked away untouched, and now she's claiming ignorance about Epstein while calling for foreign censorship of American citizens. The pattern is clear. Rules for thee, but not for me. Americans deserve answers. We deserve accountability. So my question for you is, do you think that Hillary Clinton is telling the truth about her Epstein connections? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to check out the Next News merch shop for gear that shows you stand with America First patriots who demand the truth. All right. We are 1 down, 4 to go, and we got some super chats to address. Thank you, Curio. What do you call an inmate who's been tased? Shocking a con. Okay. James Fay dropping $10. Thank you, James. Great to see you here. Thank you for that support. And Lynn dropping 5. Sheba Dog writing with a bush number 1 on a piece of paper. Thank you, Lynn, for that. $5. And looks like we just received a new member, Velvet Lace, joining the party. Yeah, sorry about that. A little bit loud, but we need to make sure that applause is heard. Okay, let's get into the next topic of the evening, because the news waits for no man. At least 10 FBI employees just got fired for their role in Jack Smith's witch hunt investigation. But here's the bombshell nobody's talking about. They were secretly spying on Kash Patel and Susie Walz when they were still private citizens. This was not just surveillance. This was weaponization of the deep state against Trump's inner circle. And what we're discovering now about the extent of the operation, it'll shock you. Now, this affects every single American who believes in constitutional rights. You have to understand, the FBI was literally spying on private citizens who would later become key Trump administration officials. Think about that for a moment. Your government was building files on people simply because they supported Donald Trump. If they can do this to Kash Patel and Susie Walz, they can do it to you. They can do it to me. This is the same FBI that pushed the Russia hoax, the same bureau that raided Mar-a-Lago. And now we know they were building surveillance networks around Trump's future term members. This is police state behavior, and it reveals just how deep the swamp really goes. The fact that Biden had to pre-pardon Jack Smith tells you everything about how guilty that they knew that they were. Speaking of fighting back against corrupt systems, let me tell you about something that's changed my family's life. You see, for years, my wife battled chronic pain and anxiety from her diagnosis, endless doctor visits, treatments that didn't work. Watching her struggle daily, it broke my heart. The medical establishment kept pushing expensive treatments that failed her, just like the political establishment fails us. And then Jonathan Otto introduced us to red light therapy. Her pain vanished, anxiety lifted, energy returned. Now, this is not some pharmaceutical scam. It's actual natural healing technology that works. You see, red light therapy uses specific wavelengths to heal your body at the cellular level, reducing inflammation, improving circulation, boosting energy. So while corrupt institutions profit from keeping you sick and dependent, red light therapy empowers you to take control of your own health. Don't let the system control your well-being. And just like we're exposing FBI corruption, we need to expose medical corruption too. Check out the link, myredlight.com. It's linked below, and use the special promo codes that have been set up just for you for the exclusive bonuses. But the surveillance gets even worse. They weren't just collecting phone records, they were recording actual conversations between Susie Wiles and her lawyer. That's attorney-client privilege being shredded by the deep state. And here's the kicker. This all happened in 2022 and 2023 when Trump wasn't even in office. They were building cases against private citizens for the crime of supporting Donald Trump. The paranoia and corruption, it runs deeper than we ever imagined. Obama's deep state coup exposed. He knew the Russia hoax was a total lie. He knew Trump was innocent because his cabal goons, Brennan, Clapper, and Comey, orchestrated the whole treasonous setup to crush the people's president. They all spied.
Got a peek inside Obama's black book, and it turns out Barack knew the Russia hoax was a hoax all along, but pushed it anyway to sabotage the Trump presidency. DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassifying pages and pages of documents, showing Obama's intel guys briefed him just weeks after the 2016 election that the Russians didn't actually sway the election. Quote, "We assessed that Russian and criminal actors did not impact the recent U.S. election results. Criminal activity also failed to reach the scale and sophistication necessary to change election outcomes." But Obama just couldn't accept that. So he and his staff instructed intel agencies to cook up new reports to support Russia collusion. Quote, "After the meetings, Clapper's executive assistant emailed intelligence community leaders, tasking them to create a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request that detailed the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. Tulsi Gabbard described what she found as a conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people. And she says the people involved should be prosecuted and has made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. We knew Hillary created the dossier, and now we have proof that Barack was calling the shots and the documents to prove it.
And that is only the beginning. That's the preface. This allegation about Obama's deep state sets up the segue to specific examples of how Democrats weaponized intelligence agencies. Chicago One Ray calls it treason. Democrat whistleblower told the FBI that Schiff okayed the leaking of classified intel to hurt Trump. Kash in 2022, Adam Schiff is the worst criminal in Congress in 250 years. There is statute of limitations on conspiracy.
Schiff is the worst criminal in Congress in the last 250 years. And what broke that we're going to talk about right now is Adam Schiff met with a whistleblower. Adam Schiff went to the podium day after day after day saying, "I know nothing about this. We're not going to discuss it. We're going to protect it." And then Adam Schiff, led the prosecution of the impeachment trial in the Senate of President Donald Trump. Talk about someone who was conflicted out of the game because he was part of the hoax that brought Charmella in, manufactured that false accusation, and then peddled it out to the world. And he continued, not surprising, he's lied about almost everything in his life. But now he lied just to set up a presidential impeachment. The guy that found and manufactured the evidence with Charmella was the prosecutor in the case against the target of the investigation. That is the ultimate, from a prosecutorial standpoint, conflict of interest. But he knew what he was doing, and he thought he would never get exposed. And I think thanks to, I think it was John Solomon and his fantastic reporting, we now see what I've been saying for years, that I thought he met with him for sure, and it will come out, and it now has.
Now, that was in 2022. Little did he know, he was already being targeted after the hearing about Schiff's alleged leaks. We'll pivot to the burning question. Everyone's asking, when will we see consequences? Treason is the word of the day. When will there be an arrest? President Trump posting this on his Truth Social just a few days ago, just to remind us all.
You're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people, who in November of 2016 delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You have gone into great detail over these years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously, a years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a
years-long coup. Juanita Broderick, DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassifies the Russia hoax, names, exposing Obama's conspiracy gang, including these and many more. Comey, Clapper, Rice, all of them. President Trump, of course, posting that to Truth Social. Ed Krasenstein, Trump-appointed Judge Eileen Cannon, just blocked the release of Special Counsel Jack Smith's report into Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents, saying they're covering up the cover-up. Andrew Weissman, of course, very upset that Cannon blocked his friend Smith's report regarding the bogus documents case, and Andrew is especially upset that Cannon may have set up the prosecution of Smith.
Can I just focus on another piece? Absolutely. That I think is going to get her reversed, which is she basically comes out and says that Jack Smith violated, or all but violated, her orders. An incredibly dangerous thing to say with this administration, because they are probably looking this going, oh, can I charge him? Right. With violating that. She knows what she's doing. And what's her basis for saying that? She's saying, one, I determined that he was invalidly appointed. What she fails to know is every single judge who has had that issue has found it the opposite. And she is the only judge who has said that. So she gave a ruling for Donald Trump that isn't highly questionable. Two, while she points out that it was on appeal, she makes it sound like Jack Smith appealed it, but then decided, I'm just going to drop it. No, he dropped it because Donald Trump was elected and the case couldn't go forward because you can't charge a sitting president. So it's not that he dropped it because he thought that she was right. And then third, and this is the kicker, she is saying that it's outrageous that Jack Smith, in spite of what she ruled, continued to compile a report. That report is an internal document to the executive branch. It is a report under the rules by Jack Smith to the Attorney General. Period. The end. I'm sorry, it's sheet to sheet.
Weissman's anger about Cannon blocking the report leads perfectly into showing how Trump supporters view her as a hero worthy of the Supreme Court. Nick Sorter, huge Judge Aileen Cannon blocking the release of Smith's report on President Trump as the left attempts to use it to smear Trump. This was a witch hunt. Trump should really consider nominating Cannon to the Supreme Court if Alito retires. Cannon blocking the Smith report sets up the explosive revelation that Flynn and others are now demanding full accountability. Another word, treason, on your screen there. Hold them all accountable. He was quote tweeting this, tagging Donald Trump's post on Truth Social. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard calls out every single member of Barack Obama's National Security Syndicate, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, Susan Rice, each deliberately and maliciously falsifying intelligence as a means to overthrow the United States government in 2016, 2020, and 2024. Quoting DNI Gabbard, the most powerful people in our country were directly leading at the helm under Barack Obama and his senior national security cabinet, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Rice, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people who in November 2016 delivered a historic victory to Donald Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama and his team's goal was essentially to not accept the decision of the American people and use this as manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You've gone into great detail over these years about these effects in the document and the decisions they've had. Now, Flynn's call for accountability transitions perfectly to Senator Blackburn, revealing the shocking scope of the FBI surveillance. She posts that we now know the Biden FBI went after Kash Patel and Susie Walz phone records when they were still private citizens. This is why we need hearings and prosecutions. There was no line unelected woke bureaucrats under Biden weren't willing to cross. Her revelation about the targeting of private citizens gives us the setup to dive deeper into exactly whose records were subpoenaed. Biden's FBI subpoenaed Patel and Walz phone records during the federal Trump investigation. Special Counsel Smith obtained the records during a federal probe into 2020 election of classified documents. Parler app reports say FBI obtained phone records in 22 and 23 related to Patel and Walz, who were private citizens.
FBI Director Kash Patel out with an allegation that the prior FBI obtained his phone records, and not only his. What can you tell us about that?
Right, this has been breaking in the last hour or so. We are told that, according to Kash Patel, the FBI director, the prior bureau leadership obtained his phone records and phone records to current White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles back in 2022 and 2023. This eventually led into the Jack Smith special counsel investigation into then former President Donald Trump. We're told that some of these records are just toll records, which don't have specific information other than times and dates. They don't have the actual content of calls. But two sources in the FBI say that Susie Wiles' attorney agreed to be recorded by FBI agents in 2023. She did not agree. We've reached out to her for comment. FBI Director Patel, in a statement to Fox News, calls this outrageous and deeply disturbing. And I will add, Brett, that we are told at least 10 Bureau employees have been fired just today over this incident, with more potentially to come. Brett?
Okay, we'll continue to dig into it. David Spun on Capitol Hill. Thanks.
More firings to come. You know, firing isn't enough. I mean, we need criminal prosecution. Now, these revelations explain exactly why Biden may have rushed to preemptively pardon Jack Smith and his team. Just when you thought the Democrats' treasonous perfidy couldn't be worse, it got worse. Now you know why Biden's autopen pre-pardoned Smith and his fellow conspirators. Biden's FBI was spying on the future FBI Director Kash Patel and Trump's future Chief of Staff. The pre-pardoning scandal sets up the breaking news that Patel is now taking direct action. Patel fires more FBI employees linked to Smith's Mar-a-Lago documents case. The firing spree leads perfectly to the stunning revelation about just how many people were being surveilled. When Special Counsel Jack Smith was investigating Trump and people in his orbit, he ended up surveilling then private citizen Patel, Chief of Staff Susie Walz. So at least 10 FBI employees who were involved in the Special Counsel Jack Smith investigation into Trump's classified documents case have been fired following a Reuters report on subpoenas for phone records of FBI Director Kash Patel and White House Chief of Staff. The headline right there from CBS News, at least 10 FBI staffers now fired. So Kash Patel, he's the FBI director now, and he's cleaning house. These firings are only the beginning. The same people who spied on him are now answering to him. The hunted has become the hunter. And the deep state operatives who thought they were untouchable are discovering that justice has a funny way of coming full circle. This is what accountability looks like, my friends. And this is exactly why Trump won in a landslide. Americans are sick of the weaponized government spying on patriots. These FBI firings prove that elections do have consequences and the deep state's reign of terror is ending. Kash Patel is not just cleaning house, he's sending a message that this kind of surveillance state behavior will not be tolerated in Trump's America. The same criminals who built cases against innocent Americans are now facing the consequences of their own actions. This is justice, this is accountability, and this is just the beginning. So do you think every FBI agent who participated in this surveillance operation should be fired or prosecuted? Let me know in the comments. And while you're there, check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real journalism that exposes deep state corruption. Looks like we got Velvet Lace gifting out 5 memberships right on. Ron the Don, Wolfram, Big Miz Podcast, Murky Vibes, Aquaman Pools, all becoming members. And we got a super chat. Sarah Bryan, are you kidding me? Hillary will never tell the truth. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. She is the queen of lies. She's perfected it, hasn't she? And speaking of lies, we've got to get into our next topic. Maybe you could call him the king of lies. Yeah, we dodged the bullet, literally, with this one. You ready? Because I am. Governor Tim Walz just got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and his response is absolutely pathetic. The Trump administration just froze $260 million in Minnesota Medicaid funds over massive fraud. And instead of taking responsibility, Walz is crying about retribution. But wait until you hear what's really happening to Minnesota's children. See, this isn't just about money. This is about children being drugged for profit. We're talking about a systematic scheme where Minnesota's public schools are allegedly medicating 90% of kids claiming they're autistic when they're not. Parents are watching their 5-year-olds get pumped full of Ritalin that's designed for teenagers. Families are being destroyed while bureaucrats in fake doctors' cash, they cash in. Meanwhile, Walz claims he's the angriest about the fraud while simultaneously calling Trump's investigation weaponization. The hypocrisy is staggering. This exposes how the deep state corruption operates. Steal federal dollars, harm children, then play victim when you're caught. If they're doing this in Minnesota, what's happening in your state? And speaking of health battles that families should not have to fight alone, I do need to share something personally. See, for years, my wife battled chronic pain and anxiety that doctors couldn't fix, endless appointments, treatments that failed. Watching her struggle daily while we spent thousands, it broke my heart seeing her suffer. And then Jonathan Otto introduced us to red light therapy, and everything changed. Her pain vanished, anxiety lifted, energy returned. She became herself again. I got my wife back. This is not some experimental treatment. It's actually proven NASA technology that heals at the cellular level. Professional athletes use it. RFK Jr. use it. Celebrities swear by it because it actually works. While corrupt systems profit off keeping people sick, red light therapy empowers you to heal naturally at home. No prescriptions, no side effects, just real healing. Don't let the medical establishment control your health. Take back control with red light therapy by going to myredlight.com. Use the promo codes you'll find below for your exclusive Next News Network benefits. But here's the kicker. Walz actually admitted that there is fraud happening, saying he's the angriest person about it. So if you know there's fraud, Tim, then why are you calling Trump's investigation retribution? And why are military recruiters being warned that 90% of Minnesota kids are medicated? This is not just Medicaid fraud, this is child abuse on an industrial scale. Trump administration freezes $260 million in Minnesota Medicaid funds over fraud. That's right.
What the vice president and Dr. Oz zeroed in on yesterday was the autism centers. And the allegation is that the treatment centers would encourage parents to get bogus diagnoses that their kids were autistic. When the center got paid, the parents would get a kickback. Now, Dr. Oz was quite clear that the responsibility funnels back to Governor Walz.
This is not a problem with the people of Minnesota. It's a problem with the leadership of Minnesota and other states who do not take Medicaid preservation seriously. Any delay in services is going to be, should be laid at the seat of Governor Walz.
Now, Walz was quick to post a few protests after that announcement, including this is a campaign of retribution. Trump is weaponizing the entirety of the federal government to punish blue states like Minnesota. Now, in Minnesota, Kristen Robbins, the chair of the House Fraud Committee, who was also running for governor as a Republican, says the fraud was so widespread, ignoring the scams was a choice made by the state.
They knew this was going on and they allowed it to continue. And that is absolute malfeasance on many layers, from the governor through commissioners and deputy commissioners. And we have not seen any accountability where people are fired or held accountable for that yet.
Now, autism treatment centers had no requirement for licensing. As a result, the state could not conduct surprise inspections of those centers. Now the provisional licensing is required. Only 6 of more than 500 centers operating in Minnesota have applied for their license. The director of program integrity in Minnesota says red flags about fraud have been going up since the 1970s. The priority, however, was compassion, not compliance.
So a little bit late to apply for those licenses. This sets the stage, but we need to give you specifics about what this fraud scheme is costing. $250 million. Dr. Oz and Vance just confirmed immigrant autism fraud is rampant in Minnesota. Now the Trump administration is withholding $250 million in payments to the state.
There's a fraud scheme in Minnesota where criminals, soon to be criminals, pay moms $1,000 roughly in order to enroll their children as being autistic, falsely, dishonestly claiming their children are autistic. They then bill Medicaid, this has already happened, millions of dollars for services that were never rendered, never delivered by a qualified staff member. These schemes disproportionately involve immigrant communities. They're insulated, they're able to organize efforts, and sometimes they don't understand what's going on. And it ultimately diverts resources away from kids who truly have autism. Because if every kid in the neighborhood has autism, then nobody has autism in terms of how you can manage them. There was one behavioral, and by the way, these kids, they carry that diagnosis of autism the rest of their lives. Their mom made a bad decision, the kid pays the price for the rest of their life. There's one behavioral health organization, Mr. Vice President, in Minnesota. They received $11.5 million in Medicaid payments, but the top biller submitted 450 days where they claimed they were working more than 24 hours a day. I mean, even in the White House, that's tough. It's hard to work more than 24 hours a day. How it didn't get picked up is shocking to us at CMS. There are other red flags in Minnesota, including hundreds of beneficiaries receiving treatment linked to one location, which was impossible physically to be true. We had 8 beneficiaries in one of these substance use disorder centers, 8 who were already dead, but the center was still billing us. Not only did they let the person pass, they kept billing for it. That's the level of average we're talking about. So CMS is done paying and chasing. We don't think jail sentences are the right way out. These criminals flee the country. Many are foreign nationals. Instead, we're launching the largest action against fraud that we've ever taken. The money's not going to ever leave the building again. We're going to start draining the swamp of the crooks that have inhabited it and are defrauding us. There are 3 bold actions. The first, and for many of you, maybe the most important, is we're going to, for the first time, take a massive action to defer funds to a state. Let's start with this Medicaid program in Minnesota, which serves pregnant women. Medicaid takes care of our children. 53% of kids are born into poverty. They're supported through Medicaid. Disadvantaged seniors, individual disabilities. It's unponderable that you would take advantage of these precious programs. Yet they're putting it at risk, all of it, by stealing the money. So it's our duty to preserve Medicaid, and what we're going to do is identify the scammers, which we have done in Minnesota. We've identified that they've hijacked, in particular, a certain part of the Minnesota Medicaid system. Said differently, and I'll just put the numbers out there, it's going to be $259 million of deferred payments for Medicaid to Minnesota, which we're announcing as I speak to Governor Walz and his team. And that's based on an audit of the last 3 months of 2025. Restated, $250 million is not going to be paid this month to Minnesota for its Medicaid claims. Now that's $250 million of money. That's your money. It's your taxpayer money.
$250 million. Now we have the shocking details, but notice the money amounts keep changing. Let's get the exact figure. J.D. Vance and Oz just froze $260 million in Medicaid funds over to Minnesota. A lot of people were getting rich. A lot of people are getting rich off the American taxpayer. There are kids that need those autism services, and the money is not going to those kids. It's going to fraudsters in Minneapolis. Now we know the key players. Here's Vice President Vance on the autism fraud schemes.
The examples of fraud that we've seen in Minnesota that we verified that is just awful is that a program that existed to ensure that autistic children had access to some after-school services has made a number of people rich, not by providing services to needy children, but by allowing fraudsters to take money that ought by right go to American citizens and to American families, and to set up sham businesses, set up sham clients, set up people who are not even autistic but claim to be autistic in order that they benefit from the money that's out there. Now, what does that mean? Number one, it means that a lot of people are getting rich off the generosity of American taxpayers, but more fundamentally and more importantly than that, it means that there are kids in Minnesota who deserve these services, who need these services, and they're not going to those kids, they're going to fraudsters in Minneapolis. That is unacceptable, and that's the sort of thing that we're cutting off with this action today.
We have decided to temporarily halt certain amounts of Medicaid funding that are going to the state of Minnesota in order to ensure that the state of Minnesota takes its obligation seriously to be good stewards of the American people's tax money. J.D. Vance laying out the core accusation, but the story is about to get political. Watch how officials are choosing sides. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Oz, please investigate the abuse of children for profit in Minnesota.
I have a personal story to share with you. Before I retired out of the military, I was placed on recruiting status out of the state of Minnesota. And when I met with the station commander the first time, he told me, if you're going to recruit any kids in the public school system, Minneapolis, St. Paul, you're going to find out that 90% of them are medicated. 90% of the public school system kids are medicated on Ritalin, saying they're artistic. And on a personal level, they did that to my granddaughter. At she was 5 years old when they started her medication, saying she was artistic. And we knew she was not artistic. They put her on medication that was designed for somebody that was artistic at age 13. We fought for years to save our granddaughter. But the public school system, the doctors, fake doctors, my ad, they was behind the destruction of her and other many kids in the public school system. And I'm gonna tell you, it's sad that the public school system was behind it. It's sad that they had over 500 fake clinics that was prescribing medication to destroy kids. I met a lot of kids that wanted to join the military, but yet because profit over kids, they destroyed their lives. Our granddaughter's going through a lot right now because all the medication they gave her disrupt everything in her mindset. And I want Dr. Oz, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to investigate who was behind this profit over kids heavily medicated kids. This was back in 2009, so it go back a long way back. And our granddaughter is not autistic. She was not autistic then, she's not autistic now. But the medication had done so much damage that we are getting, she's off the medication, but yet we're still trying to fight the school system because she can't graduate and get a diploma. Because if you're classified as autistic, you would not get a high school diploma. You get a certificate. And why would they want to do that? This need to be investigated, people need to be sued, and people need to go to prison.
I agree with you
Robert
there,
F.
buddy.
Kennedy Jr.
I agree with you there. The call for investigation shows this is escalating, but here comes the main event, the man who was actually in charge of Minnesota when it happened, Tim Walz.
This is so hard to understand, and I will continue to say this. You can trust me on this. The person who's angriest about this fraud is me. There is certainly no political upside to having fraud in your state, and it undermines the very program that I have spent a lifetime advocating for and trying to implement, and we have got criminals.
A lifetime, yeah. A lifetime in prison is what you deserve. Tim Walz responding to Vance's announcement. Trump is weaponizing the entirety of the federal government to punish blue states like Minnesota. The mask is completely off now. Walz got caught running a criminal enterprise that steals federal money while destroying children's lives. And his defense is to attack Trump for stopping it. This is exactly why we needed Trump back in office, to drain the swamp and protect our kids from these predators. Trump is doing exactly what he promised, stopping the theft of your tax dollars and protecting children from corrupt bureaucrats who see them as profit centers. While Walz cries about weaponization, parents are finally getting justice for what these criminals did to their kids. This is what accountability looks like, and it's only just beginning. Every blue state that's been stealing federal money and harming children, they better get ready, because President Trump is coming for all of them. So my question for you is, do you support Trump freezing the funds to states that defraud Medicaid and abuse children? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real journalism that exposes the truth that they don't want you to know. If you haven't done so yet, text raw feed to 844-840-4963. Get on the exclusive insiders list. That is where you need to be. And looks like Howard just sent over a coffee, $4.99. Yeah, that's probably what? Is that the cost of a basic coffee from Starbucks these days? I don't know. I don't drink the stuff, but we appreciate the support. Moving right along, we got to talk about what's going on in Iran. We are on the brink of something that we may not be able to pull back from unless calm heads prevail. But leading with strength can result in peace. And I believe that is exactly what President Trump is doing right now. Waving that big stick and hoping that by waving that stick that somebody will listen. While diplomats shake hands in Swiss conference rooms, American F-35 fighter jets are landing in Portugal. And military aircraft are flooding European airspace. Iran's nuclear negotiators say that they want peace, but our military is positioning for something entirely different. What's really happening behind the scenes just might shock you. Now, this is not just foreign policy theater. This directly impacts your family's security. It impacts your wallet. If these negotiations collapse, we are looking at potential military action that could send gas prices through the roof and put American servicemen and women in harm's way. Meanwhile, Iranian regime supporters are literally begging Trump to remove their own government, exposing the brutal reality of life under the mullahs. The timing is everything here. Trump is simultaneously building military pressure while giving diplomacy one last chance. And this dual-track approach could either prevent a devastating war or prepare us for an inevitable one. And speaking of national security preparation, there is something critical every American needs to understand about our strategic vulnerabilities. Breaking news, early this year, the U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. This isn't just government spending, it's a declaration of intent. You see, America needs uranium. It needs domestic uranium, and it needs it right now. If you didn't know this, the United States consumes 56 million pounds of uranium annually, but we only produce 5% domestically. And the rest, we import from Russia, from Kazakhstan, and other unstable regions. As tensions with Iran escalate and global supply chains face disruption, this dependency becomes a national security nightmare. And atomic minerals is positioned at the center of this uranium renaissance. Their Wyoming projects sit on some of America's richest uranium deposits, ready to fuel our nuclear reactors and reduce our dangerous foreign dependence. When geopolitical crises threaten our energy security, companies like Atomic Minerals become essential to American independence, because energy independence is not just smart policy, it is survival. And that's why you need to take a look at the full briefing that has been prepared just for Next News viewers. You'll find it linked down below. Now let's get back to these Iranian developments. This is what the mainstream media will not tell you. Those Iranian protesters holding signs begging Trump for help, they're not isolated voices. Social media is exploding with Iranians supporting American intervention against their own regime. The hashtag Iran massacre is trending as citizens are documenting brutal crackdowns. Now, this is not about American imperialism. This is about liberation. And the world is facing, Gunter Eagleman writes, a Berlin Wall moment, with the Iranian regime on the brink of an FAFO moment with President Trump. The experts are saying this is a pinnacle time period. We're watching history unfold right in front of our eyes. Trump is the peace president and will get it done. Remember, he is waving the big stick, saying, listen, let's negotiate. I don't want to have to use what's parked on your back door.
A Berlin Wall moment. History is watching us now. He writes, the Iranian regime finds itself at its weakest point since 1979. As such, the world has reached a pivotal crossroad, one that will define the course of history for generations. Chairman Crawford, how do you describe this moment?
Well, I think we have to put this in the context of the history of Iran. I mean, the last 50 years have been particularly problematic for the United States and for the Gulf state neighbors that surround Iran, but that's 50 years. They have a history of thousands of years, and only 50 of it has been spent in this type of posture. And what they're trying to do is continue as a regional and global hegemon, and they want nuclear capability to do it. So this is a defining moment. Are we going to allow for that, or are we going to stop it?
The administration says some sort of progress has to be made as we work our way into the weekend. Obviously, a lot of uncertainty, but we know this fourth round of talks is coming. So now, what do you anticipate from that?
Well, I don't really know. I don't want to get out in front of the administration on expectations, but I would say this: it's encouraging that they're talking. Mm-hmm. That's the encouraging part, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee any kind of an outcome. And so you see that the president is preparing to, not just, talk the talk, but walk the walk.
Got it. Chairman, appreciate you giving us your time today. Thank you very much, sir.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, John.
Right at the beginning of history. And following today's classified briefing on Iran, Secretary of State Marco Rubio to members of the Gang of Eight, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, this is serious and the administration has to make its case to the American people. Chuck Schumer.
This is serious and the administration has to make its case to the American people.
What did you hear? That's all he had to say. The classified briefing sets the stage for what becomes a rapidly escalating crisis, and Iran appears to be taking defensive economic measures. Iran has been rapidly loading an unusually high amount of oil onto tankers, possibly in preparation for a looming U.S. attack, according to Bloomberg. So while Iran secures its oil reserves, intelligence sources are revealing that a nuclear threat is driving the crisis. Here is Vice President Vance.
The principle is very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. If they try to rebuild the nuclear weapon, that causes problems for us. And in fact, we've seen evidence that they have tried to do exactly that. So the president sending those negotiators to try to address that problem, as the president has said repeatedly, he wants to address that problem diplomatically, but of course the president has other options as well. On what we need to see from
And if you're a student of Bible prophecy, you know exactly what this could be setting up. Vance's nuclear evidence claim is now being backed by the Secretary of State with even stronger language.
Tomorrow, Steve and Jared will be there. I think they're on their way there now, actually. And the president was very clear last night that he always prefers diplomacy. But I want you to understand, and everyone should know that Iran poses a very grave threat to the United States and has for a very long time. They are in possession, first and foremost, after their nuclear program was obliterated. They were told not to try to restart it, and here they are. You can see them always trying to rebuild elements of it. They're not enriching right now, but they're trying to get to the point where they ultimately can. The other thing I would point you to, however, is that Iran possesses a very large number of ballistic missiles, particularly short-range ballistic missiles that threaten the United States and our bases in the region and our partners in the region. And all of our bases in the UAE, in Qatar, in Bahrain. And they also possess naval assets that threaten shipping and try to threaten the U.S. Navy. So I want everybody to understand that beyond just a nuclear program, they possess these conventional weapons that are solely designed to attack America and attack Americans if they so choose to do so.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio raising the stakes, giving a grave assessment. Being matched with serious military action, the Navy is already moving assets into position. USS Gerald Ford has left Crete, heading towards the eastern Mediterranean, port of Ceuta. Some of the visuals of the movement, just part of what Trump is calling the largest Middle East deployment in over 2 decades. President Trump has the largest deployment of U.S. air and naval assets in the Middle East in 23 years. This is his or else for Iran. USS Gerald Ford, USS Roosevelt, USS Bulkley, USS Mahan, USS Bainbridge, USS Winston Churchill, USS Canberra.
Or else. It's massive buildup of U.S. military in the Middle East with the largest deployment of air and naval assets to the region. Fighter jets are there, also deployed to the area, and the world's most advanced aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, is on the way there. So again, the largest that we've seen since the Iraq War. Axios, Air and Naval. Axios is reporting White House envoy Steve Witkoff says the Trump administration wants an Iran nuclear deal that will remain in effect indefinitely. So no date on this. They don't want to have to keep going back and back and back. No more bites at the apple for Iran. Secretary of State Marco Rubio not mincing words.
I think progress needs to be made. I would be good if progress was made on Thursday. And I would say that the Iranian insistence on not discussing ballistic missiles is a big, big problem. I'll leave it at that.
The massive military buildups created a critical deadline. Geneva talks that could determine if we go to war within days. Fox News correspondent Jen Griffin says that if the talks in Geneva fail, America will be at war within a week.
That the Iranian insistence on not discussing ballistic missiles is a big, big problem. I'll leave it at that.
Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin from D.C. Jennifer.
Harris, let's be very clear that if talks in Geneva fail today, the U.S. will likely be at war in the Middle East by next week. Most U.S. warships have pulled out to sea from the Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, and Fox News has learned that from an operational status, the U.S. base in Bahrain is in a state of mission-critical status, down to a few dozen Americans operating out of the U.S. Navy's Middle East headquarters. The Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier strike group has now left Ceuta Bay in Crete after a resupply stopover and is now heading east at a typical speed. The carrier would be near the coast of Israel by Friday. The latest squadron of F-22 stealth fighter jets left Lakenheath Air Base in the UK on Tuesday, and for the first time ever are being based in Israel. Open source satellite images show them lined up on the tarmac there. The buildup in the Middle East continues as negotiators are scheduled to resume talks at 5:30 p.m. Geneva time, with several U.S. Air Force heavy lift aircraft in transit, including one C-5 Super Galaxy, the Air Force's largest strategic airlifter, designed by Lockheed Martin to carry immense cargo loads over intercontinental ranges. 13 C-17 Globemaster and 2 KC-46A Pegasus used for air refueling. Here are the U.S. demands brought to Iran in Geneva: destroy all 3 nuclear sites, Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan, deliver all enriched uranium to the U.S., no sunset clauses, zero enrichment, but keep the Tehran reactor, minimal sanctions relief up front, more if Iran compliant. The U.S. negotiating paper was first reported by the Wall Street Journal.
First and foremost, after their nuclear program was obliterated, they were told not to try to restart it, and here they are.
So the clock is ticking. The high stakes in Geneva negotiations being reinforced by dramatic military preparations across the region. U.S. Navy 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain reduced to mission-critical staffing ahead of potential Iran strikes, according to U.S. officials to Fox News. The Navy's shift to skeleton crews in Bahrain shows how imminent military action could in fact be. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the biggest U.S. aircraft carrier, has left the port near the Greek island of Crete on Thursday. The Ford's departure coincides with disappointing news from the negotiating table in Geneva. White House envoy Kushner and Witkoff were disappointed by what they heard from the Iranians in the morning negotiation session, per source with knowledge. Evening session ongoing. So it appears that the talks are deteriorating, which means if Fox News is correct, we could be at war with Iran by next week. These failed morning talks with Iran have military analysts questioning the wisdom of Trump's limited strike strategy. The limited strike to pressure Iran to make a deal with the threat of more seems extremely problematic on so many levels. Messaging that is now a sign of weakness in the negotiations. Sorry, that's the reality. I can't believe military commanders would recommend this. Tyler Rugaway writes that. White House using the New York Times to signal and pressure Iran. Trump considers targeted strike followed by a larger attack. He continues, Tyler says, as we've mentioned, very limited basing options for the duo for this due to threats and supposed airspace restriction. U.S. fighters based in Israel was a given. Interesting choice. U.S. Air Force F-22 fighter jets redeployed from UK will be stationed at the Avda Air Base in southern Israel, according to reports. Hat tip to EISN spotter, as I believe he broke the news first. At this moment, we know of the redeployment of 11 F-22s. Now, this is some of the visual imagery, it appears, of the airbase. It's hard to tell what we're actually looking at here. Despite the basing challenges, congressional Democrats are raising concerns after their classified briefing. Jim Hines, ranking Democrat on House Intel, after the Rubio-Ratcliffe Gang of Eight briefing, says, I'm very concerned. Wars in the Middle East don't go well for presidents, for the country, and we have not heard articulated a single good reason for why now is the moment to launch another war. Democrat opposition is mounting, but Trump is doubling down with his strongest public statement yet on Iran. If you recall from the State of the Union address.
Negotiations with them, they want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. My preference is to solve But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen. And no nation should ever doubt America's resolve. We have the most powerful military on earth. I rebuilt the military in my first term. We're going to continue to do so. Also, we just approved a $1 trillion budget. We have no choice. We have to be strong, because hopefully we will seldom have to use this great power that we built together. It's really called peace through strength, and it's been very, very effective.
So if there's ever been a time to join the raw feed list, text raw feed to 844-840-4963, because you guys have to be the first to know when something breaks, on this front especially. Trump's peace through strength message is getting backup from Senate Republicans who are issuing their own warnings. The Senate Republicans, Iran's leaders, know the consequences of pursuing nuclear weapons. They should not repeat past mistakes. Initial minutes from the Iraq War 2003. Now, after 23 years, the U.S. has the largest military buildup against Iran in the Middle East. Trump is weighing two options. One will be strikes on nuclear sites like Operation Midnight Hammer. Who can ever forget these visuals from Iraq? What do they call it? They call it shock and awe.
هو انفجار ثاني وانفجارات كبيرة وهائلة، وربما هذا ما أشار له.
These are visuals that we may soon see in Iran. The U.S. military buildup, it's as if they're gearing up for World War III. Another graphic, you can see the types of ships, the Abraham Lincoln, the Gerald Ford, the USS Frank Peterson, the Winston Churchill, the Sprutens, the Bainbridge, the Murphy, the Mahan, the Roosevelt, air defense, THAADs, MIM Patriot missiles. The list goes on. Thunderbolts, F-15E, F-35A, F-22 Raptors, EA-18GA, F-16s, KC-135 tankers, Cygnets, EA-11A BACNs, Sentry, AWACS, the Dragon Lady. The U-2 is up in the air. You can see the list. C-5, C-17s. They have everything that they need. That stick is pretty big. The military buildup is being matched by Iran's own defensive preparations, which are apparently visible from space. Iran fortifying its military with nuclear sites as tensions grow. Some of the imagery. This is after the attacks, and this is now. So you have before. I'm sorry, and you have after the attacks, and you have now. After the attacks here on this site, and now. Satellite imagery confirms both sides are fortifying positions as analysts predict the timeline for the potential conflict. Say a potential week-long war with Iran is coming and the huge military buildup is going on. U.S. continues to build up forces in preparation for possible Operation F-35A Lightning II fighter jets from the 158th Fighter Wing of the U.S. Air Force arrived at Lajes Air Base in the Azores, Portugal, supported by 2 KC-46A Pegasus aircrafts. More visuals on the movements. Advanced fighter jets positioning closer to Iran as some voices call for regime change rather than just military strikes. Here's one image from Iran. President Trump, please help. Calls for regime change highlight the stakes as diplomatic efforts make one final push. The U.S.-Iran nuclear talks, they resume as Trump ratchets up the war threats. Negotiations are underway in the Swiss city, days after Trump sought to build a case for war with Iran. And that's where we are. So the real revelation that Trump is not just threatening war, he's giving Iran's people hope while giving the regime one final ultimatum. Those F-35s in Portugal, they're not just military positioning, they're a promise. Either Iran's leadership negotiates in good faith or America acts decisively. And here's the bottom line. Trump is playing chess while Iran's mullahs are playing checkers. He's built maximum military pressure while keeping diplomatic channels wide open, forcing Iran into an impossible position. They either make real concessions on their nuclear program or face the consequences of American military superiority. The Iranian people are literally begging for freedom, and Trump does have the power to deliver it. And this is not about starting wars, it's about ending decades of Iranian terrorism and nuclear blackmail. The next few weeks will determine whether diplomacy can be achieved, what sanctions could not, or whether American force becomes necessary. So do you trust Trump to make the right call on Iran? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to check out the Next News merch shelf below this video for gear that shows your America First pride. F&A Ranger dropping a 20 spot. Nabil, think both parties should have a campaign funds bank. Each politician has an account to run their campaign and the party controls the money, ending corruption because when the politicians lose, party keeps the funds. Interesting take. But then how would they be able to launder the money after the campaign? Come on. That takes the fun out of it, doesn't it? Speaking of fun, yeah, wild things happening in Washington, D.C. as all of this is happening. You got the Clintons, they're testifying. Excuse me, you got Bill Clinton tomorrow. You got the buildup in Iran. You got the corruption in Minnesota. All these things happening. And now you have UFO disclosure on the table. Apparently the Pentagon is resisting. That's right. President Trump's going to be dropping a big UFO bombshell. Let's get into that. President Trump just ordered full UFO disclosure, and within hours, 3.8 million classified alien files mysteriously vanished from the Black Vault. Pentagon officials are scrambling to block the release, while Neil deGrasse Tyson demands they skip the documents and just bring out the actual aliens. The deep state's decades-long cover-up is crumbling in real time. Now, this is not just about little green men. This is about transparency versus tyranny. For 70 years, unelected bureaucrats have hidden the truth about UAPs from the American people who fund their operations. Trump's disclosure order threatens to expose not just alien technology, but the massive government conspiracy to keep us in the dark. If advanced civilizations have been visiting Earth, imagine the technological breakthroughs they've suppressed. Clean energy, medical advances, propulsion systems that could revolutionize transportation. While you struggle with gas prices and electric bills, they may have been sitting on solutions this entire time, and I believe they have. And of course, the establishment's terrified because disclosure, it means accountability. And speaking of national security revelations that change everything, it happened early this year. The U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment capabilities. It's not just government spending, it's a declaration of intent. That's because the United States needs uranium. It needs it domestically. It needs it immediately, right now. You see, the U.S. consumes 55 million pounds annually, but produces only 5% domestically. So we're dangerously dependent upon foreign sources, including Russia and Kazakhstan. That's why smart investors are turning to atomic minerals, because they are positioned at the forefront of America's uranium renaissance with strategic properties in Wyoming's Powder River Basin. Write that down. So while the government scrambles to secure our energy future, you can secure your financial future. Atomic minerals, they represent more than an investment opportunity. It's a patriotic play on American energy independence, so don't let foreign powers control our uranium supply. Visit the full briefing that has been prepared just for Next News viewers. You'll find it linked below to learn how you can profit from America's energy security. Now back to Trump's UFO disclosure, because here's where it gets really interesting. Representative Tim Burchett, he says that Trump has access to classified UFO photos and videos that would blow your mind. So just post them on Truth Social. Let's just get it over with, right? Now, the FBI is being forced into meetings next week to hand over 20 specific documents that they've been hiding from Congress. Think about that. They've been lying to elected representatives about what they know. Is anyone shocked? Meanwhile, of course, you may have heard Barack Obama suddenly admits that aliens exist, but claims they're not at Area 51. Of course, some very convenient timing from Barack Obama. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna says this advanced technology was referenced in the Book of Enoch. Have you read the Book of Enoch? I have. A fascinating book suppressed for thousands of years. In this powerful new clip, Representative Anna Paulina Luna drops this connection to the Book of Enoch.
That the Bible's pretty clear that humanity was not its only creation. And I'm not saying that these are, items that were addressed in the Bible, but it is interesting that if you look at historical context and also documents that have existed throughout time in humanity, and we can get probably into a whole nother topic on that, but you read into the Book of Enoch, a lot of this advanced technologies is potentially referenced then. And so all I'm saying is that from a national security perspective, we, the American people, deserve to know what the government has. They shouldn't be hiding it, and that's what we're here to push for.
Yeah, we do.
The Book of Enoch. That was not on my bingo card today, being uttered by a member of Congress. But I do encourage you to look it up. The biblical connection sets up our next story about international officials making even bolder claims about alien conflict. Israel's top space chief talks UFOs, reveals the Galactic Federation exists. In this wild clip, former head of Israel's space security program, Haim Eshed, 30 years overseeing the space ops, drops massive claims that there's already a Galactic Federation.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it. That's according to Israel's former space security chief. In an interview with an Israeli newspaper, he said the aliens have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we will understand in general what space and spaceships are. NBC News chief global correspondent Bill Neely explains this one.
Hi, Alison. Well, this is quite a story, and it comes from the man who headed Israel's space security program for nearly 30 years. Haim Eshed is making the extraordinary claim that the United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years. Not immigrants, but extraterrestrials. He has called them the Galactic Federation of Aliens, and he says President Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims. but was asked not to do so by the Federation in order to prevent what he calls mass hysteria. Well, the retired general says the US and Israel have kept it from the public because, quotes, humanity isn't ready and the aliens don't want to reveal themselves until humanity can evolve, he says, and understand what space really is. Well, the good news is that he claims an agreement has been reached between the US government and the aliens, a contract to do experiments here. There's also, he says, a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien representatives. Now, this former head of a branch of Israel's defense ministry is 87. He was very well respected, at least until now. And he said all this in an interview with an Israeli newspaper in Hebrew, but it's really taken off after parts of it were published in English by the Jerusalem Post today. He says he's come forward now in the hope that his news will be accepted as true. He notes that if he'd made these claims 5 years ago, he would have been hospitalized, but now he says, I've got nothing to lose. Well, so far, President Trump has not tweeted about this, though remember a year ago, he did set up the Space Force as the fifth branch of the US Armed Forces. Well, we did ask the White House, the Department of Defense, and Israeli officials to comment. So far, they have not responded to the NBC News request, and I wonder if they ever will.
So there's that. From ancient texts to modern Israeli intelligence, now we're getting reports that Trump disclosure's efforts are hitting serious roadblocks inside our Pentagon. A Washington insider claims powerful factions inside the Pentagon are actively blocking full UFO disclosure, believing some phenomena could be demonic in origin. U.S. UFO investigator Mark Christopher Lee says this resistance may limit what Donald can reveal. The resistance is not just bureaucratic red tape. Sources are telling us that there's deeper, almost spiritual fear driving the pushback. Reports that Trump is facing backlash in the Pentagon for releasing UFO files from officials who fear UFOs are demons. Look at the headline. Trump faces Pentagon revolt as demon fears stall UFO declassification bombshell, which, of course, connects it directly back to the Book of Enoch. Insiders claim religious anxieties and interdimensional theories are slowing the release of the long-awaited UFO files. The demonic angle keeps surfacing, but let's look at specific evidence these Pentagon officials are so worried about. President Trump's plan to declassify UFO files is reportedly facing resistance inside the Pentagon. They claim fear of public panic, religious backlash, especially over interdimensional or demonic interpretations. There's apparently smoking gun video that insiders are begging to get released. This connects to some jaw-dropping testimony we're seeing from Congress. Representative Anna Paulina Luna released the game-changing UFO video. If you can, thanks.
Okay. That was a good dance, though, Lou. The 23-minute video. Have you seen it?
Yes.
It's 23 minutes.
It is a very, yes. And it's, what I can say is that when I was in the program, as you say, allegedly, right, as the ATIP director. If not, you better go buy some lottery tickets, because I am the most clairvoyant individual in the world, obviously, if I had nothing to do with ATIP and I figured all this out. But in all seriousness, the video was extremely compelling. One of many, and to the point when I remember getting some expertise to look at it. I did not say what it was. I sent it out to some highly trained experts in the I can say the ISR community, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance community. And when they came back to me, the title of the email was, quote unquote, that UFO video. Now, I never told them. They didn't have any idea what this 23-minute video was. They had no idea what our office was actually doing at the time. And for this little office of experts to come back, and they titled the email back to me, that UFO video, is pretty telling. Because these folks,
what does the video look like? Is it grainy like the stuff that has already been leaked, or is this something that is definitive?
No, it's definitive, and it's perplexing because every time you think you're like, okay, that's what I'm looking at, all of a sudden, bang, it changes. I can't go into any more than that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Walking a fine line, but it will. I suspect at some point it's going to come out. My hope is that it would come out during like some sort of public hearing. Wouldn't that be grand, right? Everybody can see it for themselves. And there's other ones. There's other ones too that are equally compelling. And again, let me reemphasize, Jimmy. It didn't stop with the Omaha and the USS Kidd. Okay, I've said this before. This is occurring regularly and routinely. Just because you haven't seen it in the newspaper yet doesn't mean it's not occurring. This is happening all the time around the world.
Are you saying that this 23-minute video is recent? What year was it shot?
I can't. It was a little while ago. It was when I was still in ATIP.
So when you're still in, okay.
But I can tell you that the frequency of occurrences are happening routinely. It's happening all the time, and it's to the point now where there are dedicated spaces of analysts, and I won't go into any more than that are trying to look at this problem. And they're looking at this precisely as the way they should, right? Applying all their expertise and providing what they call you have your assessments, and you have basically a counter assessment, right, or a counter analysis that is trying to challenge the other analysts in essence. So that's alternative analysis is what we call it. That's very important. And you now have this dialogue occurring in the intelligence community. That's never really happened before in this topic. When I was in ATIP, this was such a hush-hush effort that we had to operate under extreme measures of secrecy. And now people are having this conversation in the open. So it's
And President Trump demanding full release. Congressional briefings are revealing encounters that defy physics, and now we're getting our first direct response from Pentagon leadership about Trump's orders. Congressman Tim Burchett says he was told in a classified briefing about a football field-sized UFO moving underwater at a speed of 200 miles per hour. This tells us everything about how seriously the military is taking Trump's disclosure mandate, but Congress is a very different perspective. 4 days after POTUS told the Pentagon to release the UFO files, I flew with Secretary of War to Colorado and asked him if he's actually going to do it.
Three days ago, I got an email with the subject, in all caps, hot, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, short notice. I mean, I thought it was spam. I didn't even open it. But a few hours later, I got another email, and that one I did open. And it turns out it was an invitation from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth's office, inviting me to join him on a trip to Colorado. Now, keep in mind, I got this email less than 24 hours after President Trump ordered Hegseth to begin the process of releasing the government's UFO files. So, of course, I thought, we're going to Area 51. It turns out we're not going to Area 51.
So before we get on the plane, just a little bit of background about how we got here. It was just a few days ago that President Obama was asked on a podcast about aliens.
Are aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51.
That's what's really kicked this whole conversation into high gear. Then President Trump was asked about Obama's remarks and said this.
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that.
This is no longer fringe. I mean, disclosure is now being discussed publicly at the highest levels of the U.S. government. In fact, we talked about it on the flight over. I asked a senior War Department official if the Pentagon had started the process of identifying and releasing the UFO files, and he said yes. The Secretary of War is just about to walk out of the motorcade. Buckley Space Force Base is one of the nation's premier missile warning sites. It's here that Space Delta IV watches for things like ICBMs, hypersonics, and maybe something else.
We're out here on an Arsenal of Freedom tour. We're out here talking to companies, large and small. Out here in Colorado today, talking to two small space tech startup companies that are going to be part of space dominance that we need in order to ensure dominance in space, that domain that will determine what happens in that next conflict.
All right, so we've just arrived at True Anomaly, and what really sets True Anomaly apart is, most space companies build satellites. True Anomaly builds satellites that can maneuver and actually get up close to other satellites, like China's satellites or Russia's satellites. Right now, they say that they're used for defensive capabilities, but they have the option, theoretically in the future, to be used offensively as well.
True Anomaly's flagship spacecraft is called Jackal, built for contested environments in space by former Space and Air Force officers. It's the exact kind of company the Arsenal of Freedom Tour is all about.
We have to open the aperture and ensure that scrappy companies that have great ideas and the best and brightest are able to compete on a level playing field. And that's why one of the biggest wars that we're fighting is against our own Pentagon bureaucracy.
And we're out. I still want to ask the secretary about UFOs, but we're already on the move, so hopefully I can get him at the next stop.
Anyone? Lunch on the go. Let's go. We've just arrived at our third and final stop for the day, Sierra Space. And Sierra Space is really known for Dream Chaser. It almost looks like the space shuttle, right? A throwback to a reusable space plane that launches into space on a rocket, but then can land on a commercial runway.
Make no mistake, this fight for space is the fight for the future of the world as we know it. And right here in Colorado, in the heart of America, you are forging the instruments of absolute and unquestioned American space dominance.
You talk a lot about space superiority. How much of that involves offensive weapons in space?
Well, I think we have to realize that every domain could potentially be kinetic, to put it in military speak. It could be offensive or defensive. That's not what we want to have to do, but you have to be prepared to defend and you have to be prepared to be proactive. So we're looking at all options in the domain of space. A lot of things, a lot of capabilities we won't talk about with cameras and microphones. But when I say dominance, it means we're going to maintain our eyes in the sky no matter what. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we're going to need to be able to protect our assets.
3 days ago, President Trump directed you to begin the process of identifying and releasing the UFO and UAP files. I mean, did you ever think that you would be the Secretary of War in charge of potentially declassifying extraterrestrial life to the American people and the world?
I did not have that on my bingo card at all.
And are you prepared to do that now?
Of course. I mean, we've got our people working on it right now. I don't want to oversell how much time it will take. Right? We're digging in. We're going to be in full compliance with that executive order, eager to provide that for the president. So there'll be more coming on that as far as the process of what we'll do.
And what sort of time frame? Do you have any sense for how long this is going to take?
I don't have a time frame for you yet, but stand by. We'll get it for you.
And do you think aliens are real?
What?
Do you think aliens exist? Do you think they're real?
I get to do the review and find out along with you. One more?
One more. Mr. Secretary, the Director of National Intelligence said today that her office was going to begin the process of declassifying reports on extraterrestrial and alien life. I'm going back to these types of questions because the American people have wanted to know the answer to these questions for a very long time. And so I'm just curious if you think that, one, if this is the beginning of disclosure for the American people and the world, and two, if the Pentagon is actually prepared to start declassifying some of these things that might really shed some answers on this instead of keeping it secret.
We would love. We'll work with the DNI as we always do. I'm heartened to hear that she's doing that. President Trump has been committed to disclosure on lots of levels, and he's made it clear that he wants answers on this. He's given us a responsibility to do it. We're going to be a part of delivering that. It'll be a deliberative process. We want to make sure expectations are going to be high, right? I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, so we're going to take a little time to make sure we assess what this should look like and deliver for the president, for the American people. Thank you.
So there you have the Secretary of War being a little coy about his responses, but says it's moving forward. Burchett says that if Trump discloses the classified UFO photos and videos that he's seen, we'd realize we're one grain of sand in 100 million beaches.
UFO is the saucer shaped and there's something on top. And I've never seen anything. I've not seen any. Well, I take that back. I've seen things, but that's since I've been in Congress and I'm not allowed to discuss this. I would just hope that the president would disclose everything that I've seen in every skiff I've been in and in every confidential conversation, every picture I've seen, every video I've seen. I wish that that he would release all those.
Would that change the world? I mean, would that change people?
No, I don't think so. I think we just realize that we're one grain of sand in 100 million beaches. And I mean, if you think we're the best that God can do, I think you greatly underestimate God.
Wow. Profound words. Files disappearing right after Trump's order, not a coincidence. Around 3.8 million UFO and alien-related files from the Black Vault disappeared hours after Trump ordered full disclosure of such records. Timeline accelerating rapidly. Obama's comments and Trump's response are forcing the issue into the open faster than anyone expected. The Jewish Voice writes, the USA will declassify data on UFOs and extraterrestrial civilizations this week. The topic of aliens was suddenly flared up in America First. America First, Barack Obama stated aliens exist, but they are not held in Area 51. Trump called this a disclosure of secret information.
Going to be working very closely with the White House. I have meetings set up next week with not just the FBI, but the Department of War to push for a very specific list of documents. I believe it's over 20 documents specifically that we know that they're housing, that they have previously denied us access to as members of Congress, which should alarm every American, but will be similar to some of the footage that you've seen us release from my task force, as well as the footage that you have up on your screen right now. I can slightly allude to it right now, but we still are waiting on the official declass. But once we receive that, I will be actually sharing with the American people some stuff that was briefed to us directly by the FBI and be able to share more information on that. And so based on the tech, if you look at how these things are moving, some people will say, well, this could potentially be drones or advanced technologies from other adversarial governments, which is exactly why we should be able to access this information and to debunk that if possible. But there are certain things that we can't explain. And I was not the only member of Congress that saw that. Many members on my task force actually came into the briefing, as well as other individuals that are currently looking into this. And so we will be revealing that information. We will be ensuring that the declassification order by the president is followed through on. And again, I'm not telling people what to believe, but yeah, it's definitely hard to explain.
But when we see it, we'll know. First concrete results of Trump's orders, but the big question is whether this is genuine disclosure or damage control. President Trump has released the first batch of top secret UFO files. Maxine Waters as a Klingon, of course. Neil deGrasse Tyson on Trump ordering the release of the UFO files.
Purported release of files relating to UFOs and extraterrestrial life.
If I were Trump, I would have instead said, I want any government agency that has an alien to bring forth the alien. Then you don't need documents. just think about that. What's the point of documents if you actually have the alien?
So the deep state's 70-year UFO cover-up is imploding before our eyes. Files are disappearing, officials are panicking, and Trump is forcing their hand. Neil deGrasse Tyson nailed it. Forget the documents, just bring out the alien. If they really have nothing to hide, then why are they fighting so hard to keep the secrets? The truth is coming whether they like it or not. Well, Trump's UFO disclosure order isn't just about aliens, it's about demolishing the deep state's wall of secrecy once and for all. When unelected bureaucrats can hide world-changing information from the people who pay their salaries, we do not have a republic, we have a shadow government. Every vanished file, every Pentagon official's resistance, every mysterious deletion proves they've been lying to us for decades. The American people deserve to know what technologies have been suppressed, what contact has been made, and why our own government treats us like children Can't handle the truth. This disclosure fight will reveal whether we truly live in a republic of the people or a dictatorship of the deep state. So let me ask you this. Do you believe the American people have the right to know what our government knows about alien life? Let me know in the comments, and while you're there, check out the Next News merch shop. So what do you guys think? Maxine the Klingon. I've never seen any. I don't want to. She looks like the Predator. What do you guys think? You think they're going to do it? Do they bleed? I love that. Yeah. Nice. Nice reference there. Do you think we're going to see it? Do you think it's demons? Do you think it's aliens? Do you think, what is it? Is it an extension of God's creation? Transparency will win the day, says Jack over there on X. So there you have it, folks. Tonight's show perfectly illustrates what happens when real leadership finally takes control of our government institutions. We watch Hillary Clinton squirm under oath about her Jeffrey Epstein connections, desperately trying to spin her way out of questions she's dodged for years. The same woman who orchestrated the Russia hoax is now pushing European-style censorship on American soil. Her panic is showing. And 10 FBI agents who participated in Jack Smith's cover-up in a surveillance operation, they all got their walking papers. These weren't innocent bureaucrats. These were political operatives who thought spying on private citizens like Kash Patel and Susie Walz was just another day at the office. Justice is not coming. It's here. And Tim Walz squealed about weaponization when Trump froze Minnesota's Medicaid fraud money. $260 million stolen from taxpayers, and this clown calls accountability retribution. Sorry, Governor. Stealing is still illegal, even in blue states. The person angriest about the fraud should be doing something about it, not crying when adults finally step in. And Iran is scrambling to negotiate because they know the weakness they exploited under Trump under Biden is over. Trump's building a case for action while their regime crumbles. Iranian people are literally spray painting pleas for President Trump's help on walls. That's what American strength looks like internationally. Even UFO disclosure is happening because this administration isn't afraid of the truth. Now, the Pentagon resistance proves how deep institutional secrecy runs, but Trump's forcing transparency everywhere it has been denied. Now remember, Robert Watson Watt's radar demonstration on February 26, 1935, his technology could detect hidden threats that previous generations could not see. And today, President Trump's administration is functioning as America's radar system, detecting corruption, fraud, and institutional rot that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. The deep state counted on Americans accepting their lies and their cover-ups and their comfortable corruption. They sorely miscalculated, catastrophically. From Hillary's stammering testimony to fired FBI operatives to frozen fraud funds, we're witnessing systematic accountability that previous administrations refused to deliver. This is not revenge. It's restoration. We're not weaponizing government, we're sterilizing it. Every firing, every investigation, every disclosure represents democracy working properly for the first time in years. The swamp creatures are panicking because their protection racket is finished. Watson Watt's radar saved Britain from hidden aerial threats. Trump's transparency is saving America from hidden institutional threats. Both required leaders willing to embrace new technology to defend their nations. American strength is returning on every front, domestic and international. Our enemies respect us again. Our institutions face accountability again, and our people are getting truth again. So before you go, don't forget to hit the merch shelf below this video. Special thanks to all of our Super Chat and Rumble Rant contributors, keeping independent journalism flowing. The truth always surfaces, eventually. We're just accelerating the timeline. I'm Gary Franchi. This has been the Raw Feed. Stay free.